Thanks for joining us.
We enjoy making videos that are educational and fun.
We have a great time making these videos.
We hope you have a good time watching them.
Okay, everybody, you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Myths, the show where we turn back the clock, merge the real and imagined, and mix history with mythology. In this program, we'll span the ages of ancient Greece. We'll talk to the great myth master himself, Hesiod. We'll also meet the greatest Olympian, the god they call the Thunderer, Zeus. And just back from a hugely successful tour covering the entire Mediterranean, we'll meet the great goddess of the city, Athena. And last, but not least, one of the most heroic figures from ancient Greece. With us today, the king of Athens himself, Theseus. And there you have it, a show that will undeniably become a myth unto itself. So without further ado, let's begin our tour. Here's your host, Dwight Legend.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Dwight Legend. Welcome to the show. To help explain the mysterious world of myths, let me introduce a man who may well be called the ultimate ancient Greek poet. One of the first major talents to record myths, he began writing while working full-time as a shepherd on Mount Helicon, not far from Athens. During his time, he wrote several poems, 3 of which are still on the charts today. Ladies and gentlemen, the myth master, the great storyteller himself, Hesiod. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming all the way from ancient Greece to help us out here, Hesiod.
You're more than welcome. Being nearly 3,000 years old, I'm just darn lucky to be here today.
Okay, Hesiod. Let's just get right on to that first question burning in everyone's mind, to wit, are you the first person to ever write about Greek mythology?
There were many others. Unfortunately, most of what they wrote no longer exists. However, another famous writer of myths, still popular today, is Homer.
Did you know Homer?
We both became popular around the same time, which was around 700 before the Common Era.
Wow, 700 BC. That's pretty early. Where were you working back then?
Homer and I were both working around Athens, trying to write full-time, but it was tough. Little money, little food. We kept at it though, working odd jobs when we could. I think Homer waited tables at a couple of restaurants. I shepherded a lot. The pay wasn't great, but it gave me time to write. Of course, none of this would have been possible without the muses calling me to sing of the gods.
The Muses?
I'm talking of the muses. The muses.
Were they a singing group?
I can't believe you never heard of the muses.
I know. Hum a few bars. I'll see if I can remember them.
Well, Dwight, let me present them to help you understand.
If you're a poet needing inspiration, count on us for imagination. Can't get creative, no words to command. We'll arrive on time to lend a hand. Poetry is fun when the lines just flow. The writing's a drag when you've got nothing to show. When ideas won't flow, when the pen runs dry. We muses show up so poets won't cry. We're the muses, here to amuse you. We're the muses, here to renew you. We're the muses, to amuse you. Here to help you get right back on track. Got a problem putting ink to paper? Wanna write about a little caper? Hope you make lines that truly rhyme. Feel like you're running out of time. No need to worry, the muses are here. We bring fresh ideas and lots of cheer. With us, your visions will get quite clear. So start writing, no need to fear. We're the muses, here to amuse you. We're the muses, here to renew you. We're the muses, here to amuse you. Here to help you get
Oh, now I get the idea. That was great. So, one day you met these muses. Go on.
Okay, so there I was, up on Mount Helicon. It was a slow night under a full moon. You could hear the crickets in the distance. I had just finished supper when all of a sudden, I'm hearing those wonderful muses.
The muses again.
They're the goddesses of music and poetry. So I'm sitting there, you see, all by myself, bothering nobody, when all of a sudden, the hills were alive with the sound of muses. Their voices were like heaven. They were calling me to sing of the gods. Homer basically did the same thing, you know?
No, really? He saw the muses too?
Well, actually, I don't know that for sure, but he was writing poems during the same time that I was. We each had several small successes, but then Homer created the Iliad and the Odyssey, which, as you know, were huge hits. Homer and I also explored the Greek mythology that existed before we did. Stories whose origins go so far back in time, we will never know from whence they came.
Get out of town.
Totally true.
So myths are actually more than 3,000 years old.
You know it. It was a pretty amazing time in the course of human history.
I bet. Now let's talk about some of the poems that you wrote.
Certainly. One of the poems is called Works and Days. It contains stories and myths about some famous gods and people like Prometheus and Pandora. I wrote it after the muses tipped me off about singing of the gods.
Prometheus. He was the guy who stole fire from the gods and brought it down from Mount Olympus.
Yes, he gave fire to the mortals and was punished pretty severely for doing so. Zeus had two of his servants, force and violence, take Prometheus and bind him to a rock by a water's edge forever. Works and Days also includes myths about Pandora.
Oh, I remember Pandora. The gods gave her a magical box that contained the mischief and the evils of the world. The only rule was she could never open it.
That's right, but curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to open the box just to peek at what lay inside. Out flew plagues and misfortunes faster than she could stop them. Except, as you may remember, she did close the box in time to keep one thing secure. That one thing was hope, the only good thing the box had in it. That's why even when everything seems lost, we will always have hope. You have to remember, all of this we're talking about was before TV, before books even. The world was a very mystifying place.
So these stories were a form of entertainment?
Yes, you could say that. They were also a way to explain the mysteries of nature. When the sun rose in the sky, the ancient Greeks thought the sun god was driving his golden chariot through the heavens. When the lightning flashed, they thought it meant the god of the sky was hurling his thunderbolts in anger.
And these stories, of course, were the Greek myths we've been talking about.
Right.
What about the Romans? I've heard there were some Roman myth writers too.
You're right. There were two major Roman myth tellers, the first century BC poets Ovid and Virgil. Ovid gave flowery, dramatic, and very detailed versions of popular myths. In his version of the Phaethon myth, for example...
Wasn't Phaethon the mortal son of the sun god?
Right. As the myth goes, the sun was actually a blazing golden chariot driven by the sun god, Helios. Helios had a mortal son named Phaethon. Anyway, to cut a long myth short, one day Phaethon tried to drive his father's chariot across the sky. But being only a mortal, he couldn't do it, and he crashed the sun into the sea. When Phaethon's sisters came to mourn him, they were turned into poplar trees at the river's edge. Ovid ended his tale with these memorable lines. Where sorrowing they weep into the stream forever, and each tear as it falls shines in the water a glistening drop of amber. Here Phaethon lies who drove the sun god's car. Greatly he failed, but greatly he had dared. So as you can see, the Romans admired the Greek culture and absorbed the popular Greek myths into their culture by simply giving the Greek gods and heroes Roman names.
What were some of those Roman names?
Ovid and Virgil called Zeus Jupiter. Poseidon was Neptune, Hermes was Mercury, and Ares became Mars.
Hey, those are the names of planets.
Right, but they were the names of Roman gods before they were the names of planets. The planetary connection came much later.
Oh, I get it. So modern man named the planets after the Roman gods.
That's right. In fact, the more you start learning about Greek and Roman myths, the more amazed you'll be at the connections they have with modern times.
Thanks, Hesiod, for writing down the myths so that now, here, 3,000 years later, we're still telling your stories.
You're very welcome, Dwight.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Let's give Hesiod a big round of applause. Thanks for coming, Hesiod. Hey, we'll see you in the history books. We'll be right back.
Hope you're enjoying the show. It's time for a quick musical review about what we've already learned. Here we go.
Band of Heroes. What a great song. Okay. Now it's time to bring out our next guest. As gods go, this guy is regarded as one of the mightiest gods of them all. From the highest mountain to the lowest valley. The image of strength, power, and knowledge. The Romans called him Jupiter. We all know him best as Zeus. Welcome to the show, Zeus. I know you came a long way to be here today. Yes. And we appreciate it very much. Okay, why don't you just start by telling us what it's like being king of the gods?
Well, ever since I became king of gods and men, I have lived on that very high mountaintop in Greece. Mount Olympus, of course. The height of the mountain is so great that all of us who live up there, only gods and goddesses, you know, can see everything that goes on down on earth below. We like to direct the actions of men and women and really get involved in their day-to-day lives.
Involved? How do you mean?
We meddle. You know, we make things happen.
That's got to keep you pretty busy.
Yes, but we can handle it. After all, we're gods. And up on Mount Olympus, we truly have a bird's eye view. So we can keep track of everything.
How do you get food and water and stuff up there? I mean, is there, like, takeout or something?
Gods and goddesses don't eat and drink the food and water of mortal men. We sip nectar and dine on ambrosia, the food of the gods. Of these things we have a never-ending supply.
Ambrosia? What's that, some kind of fancy hamburger?
Oh no, it's a very special delicacy only gods can eat. Much better than caviar, by the way.
Now, I would imagine Mount Olympus would be a very peaceful and beautiful place to live. Do you like it?
It is a very beautiful place to live. I love it. Plenty of sunshine and good clean air, and like I said before, excellent views. But as far as peaceful, Dwight, my wife and my children and my brothers and sisters all live up there. 12 major gods and goddesses in all, and we don't always agree on things, as you can imagine.
What happens when you don't agree?
Oh, we clash a bit. Sometimes I have to toss a few thunderbolts. Poseidon's been known to send over a hurricane or two. You know, little family spats.
Excuse me, but who are these gods and goddesses of Mount Olympus?
You mean the Olympians?
Olympians? I thought they were people who participate in the Olympic Games.
Yes, that is true. But all of the major gods and goddesses who live on Mount Olympus are given the title Olympian as well. I'm known as Olympian Zeus, for example. Did you know that the Olympic Games were originally held in my honor? Well, let me mention Hera. She's my beautiful wife and queen of the gods and goddesses. She does tend to get very jealous, however, if anyone tries to steal her thunder.
There you are.
Hera! What are you doing here? Dwight, this is my wife, Hera.
Well, very nice to meet you.
Don't interrupt me. I'm here to talk to my husband. It's all your fault.
What is my sweet?
Don't my sweet me. Do you remember when Aphrodite and Athena and I asked you to pick who was the most beautiful of all the goddesses of Olympus?
Everyone knows it is you. It wouldn't have been right for me to say so. It was only fair that it come from someone else.
All you had to do was pick me, and everything would have been fine. But no, you say, go ask Paris. What does he know? A mortal?
He is said to be a very fine judge of beauty.
Well, he's not. The judgment of Paris has come down, and he has chosen Aphrodite, the fairest of all goddesses.
Uh-oh.
You realize this means war, and it's all your fault.
Ooh. Did I just hear her right? Did your wife just declare war on you?
Not on me, but there will be a war. Prince Paris is from Troy, so it is most likely that the poor Trojans and Greeks will have to fight it out. Hera will side with the Greeks and Aphrodite with the Trojans. Believe me, they won't be happy until they've destroyed each other. It will be forever known that the judgment of Paris led to the Trojan War.
Isn't that the war Odysseus won when his army got themselves into the city by hiding in that huge wooden horse?
Right, the Trojan horse. It was presented to the city of Troy as a gift. It was wheeled into Troy in a great ceremony. The Trojans thought the Greeks had given up. They thought they had won the war. They had a huge party. Then, late that night, when everyone in Troy had fallen asleep, Odysseus and his army climbed out of the horse and took over the city. That was the fall of Troy, the end of the war.
What if you guys can't come to an agreement on something? I mean, who gets the final say? Who makes the rules? I mean, it seems like your wife Hera is pretty much in charge.
I am Zeus. I am king of the gods. Therefore, I am the chief judge and must settle all disputes fairly.
Take it easy, Zeus. You'll scare my audience. We believe you. It's okay. Okay, so anyway, there's you and your wife Hera. Who else?
My brother Poseidon is the second most powerful god on Mount Olympus. He rules the seas and actually spends about half of his time in a palace beneath the sea. So we don't see a lot of him, except, of course, during vacation. Poseidon can be a very nice god. I bet you didn't know that he actually invented the horse and gave it to man.
Get out.
Seriously. But if he becomes angry, he sends great tidal waves to crash upon the shore. Or he dries up lakes and rivers so people won't have any water to drink. So it's always a good idea to stay on Poseidon's good side.
Brother, do you have a moment?
I always have time for you, Poseidon. Do you mind, Dwight?
No. Who am I to stand in the way of the gods? Please, go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that I had to send up another hurricane and sink the Greek fleet returning from victory at Troy.
You did, but I thought you were on the side of the Greeks with Hera.
I was, but after Troy fell, a young Greek warrior insulted Athena by sacking her temple.
Those mortals, will they ever learn? 'Tis a pity, though. I did like Odysseus.
Actually, Odysseus' ship was the only one to survive the storm, but it blew them so far off course it will take them 9 years to get back home. Anyway, I just thought you should know.
Thank you, brother. Well, Odysseus will be away from home for 20 years because of that judgment of Paris. Where were we?
Well, we met Hera and Poseidon. Who else lives on Mount Olympus?
There's my son Apollo. He's a wonderful boy. He's charming, handsome, talented, and honest. He's known as the god of music because of his musical talents and beautiful singing. He's known as the god of healing because he taught people how to comfort and cure the sick. And he's also known as the god of archery because he shoots arrows into monsters that threaten his family and loved ones. And finally, he's known as the god of light and truth because he speaks the truth and words of wisdom.
Sort of 4 gods in one, eh?
Now Apollo has a twin sister named Artemis. She is known as the goddess of the hunt and the goddess of the moon. She carries a silver bow and arrow and hunts deer and other wild animals. But she also protects young animals and young children. I have another son named Hermes, and like Apollo, he is the god of a lot of things. He is the god of sleep and dreams, the god of commerce, and the god of travelers. Hermes provides great assistance to me. He is very clever and quick, and for this reason, he is my messenger. Whenever I need to communicate with someone very far away, Hermes delivers the message for me.
Kind of like Mount Olympus email.
Hermes wears a beautiful winged golden helmet that protects him while he travels. And he can't get lost because he carries a magic golden wand called a caduceus, a gift from Apollo to guide him on his journeys. Also with me on Mount Olympus is my very gentle and good-natured son, Hephaestus, the god of the forge. He's a very hard worker who makes all of the armor and weapons for the gods and goddesses. His forge is located at the fire of a volcano.
Fire of a volcano?
Yes. Now, on the opposite extreme, there's my son Ares, the god of war. He thrives on violence, battles, and wars. He's got a little problem with anger control, you might say. Were he not my son, I would throw him from Mount Olympus because he is so destructive. But he is of my blood, so I will keep him there where I can watch over him. In addition to Artemis, I have another daughter known as Aphrodite. She is the goddess of love and beauty.
Love and beauty?
Yes. Everyone in the ancient world worshipped her. It is said that her powers were so great that even wild beasts became tame when they came face to face with her.
Really?
Now, there are two immortals. That's another name for a god or someone who lives forever, who used to live on Mount Olympus with me, but they live elsewhere these days. First, my sister Hestia, who is the goddess of the hearth.
The hearth? What's a hearth?
A fireplace. The hearth was the center of the family in ancient times. Remember, we didn't have matches back then like you do today. So it was very important to honor the hearth and the fire that always burned there. As goddess of the hearth, Hestia protected every home and every family in the ancient world. Whenever the ancient Greeks built a new city, they would carry live coals from the old city to the new city in honor of Hestia.
I bet that really got people fired up about their city, huh?
Right, Dwight. Now, my other brother, Hades, also used to live on Mount Olympus, but now he lives in the underworld as ruler of the dead. He is the god of wealth, because the underworld is filled with all precious metals hidden in the earth.
Okay, Zeus. Now, if my numbers are correct, you've told us about 10 gods and goddesses now so far. You make 11, so who did you leave out?
I didn't actually leave anyone out. I just saved the best for last. That's right, I brought my daughter Athena with me today. She's my favorite, you know. She has quite a few responsibilities. She is known as the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of war, the goddess of arts and crafts, and the goddess of the city.
Wow! A goddess of many talents. Sounds like a chip off the old block there, huh, Zeus? Okay. Well, it looks like we're going to meet Athena and hear her story right after this musical break. Take it away, heroes!
Way back in ancient Greece, there were 12 great gods who tried to keep the peace. They spent most of the time upon Mount Olympus, just hanging out and keeping watch over us. There was a king named Zeus who liked to throw thunderbolts. His jealous wife Hera said he had lots of faults. Zeus had two brothers, one was named Poseidon. He had a mighty triton and a chariot to ride on. The other brother, Hades, would make your hair curl. He had his own kingdom in the underworld. Apollo loved music, to hear him play was a treat. Hermes was fast, cause he had wings on his feet. Hephaestus was the forge, building armor and lightning. Ares, as the god of war, could be quite frightening. All of them tried their best to help their dad, but sometimes they just did stuff that made him mad. They were Olympians, the great gods of Greece. They tried to keep the peace. Don't forget about his sister and daughters. Artemis loved the woods, Aphrodite the waters. Hestia helped families and kept everything pretty. Athena was the favorite, she protected the city. Up on Mount Olympus, things were pretty cool. But down among the mortals, they were known to fool. With people's lives and cause all kinds of trouble. And if you mess with them, you get it back double. They were Olympians, the great gods of Greece. They tried to keep the peace.
All right, thank you, heroes. Now, let's bring Zeus's favorite daughter, Athena, on out here and introduce her to everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, the brightest star in the heavens, brains, beauty, and a snappy woman about town. Make her feel welcome, Athena. Welcome, Athena, welcome. Now then, you have quite the reputation as a woman of power and wisdom. According to your father, you do have a lot of responsibilities. In fact, it looks like you're on your way to war right now.
Actually, this is what I wear on official occasions. I do look as though I'm off to battle, but it's only because I'm the goddess of war and the protector of the city that I dress like this. I actually don't like war at all. I will do everything in my power to prevent war, but it is sometimes necessary to fight on the side of good for what's right.
I guess that sort of ties in with your responsibilities as the goddess of wisdom as well, huh?
Exactly. I fight on the side of justice. You know, I started the law courts in Athens.
Isn't the city of Athens named after you?
Yes, it is, actually. I competed with Zeus's brother, Poseidon, for control of that area in Greece. I was declared the winner, and the city of Athens was named after me.
So that's why you're known as the goddess of the city.
Yes, and the citizens of Athens honor me with a festival on the Acropolis every summer. It's a wonderful experience.
And the Acropolis is,
Ah, yes, the mighty Acropolis. It rises 200 feet above the city of Athens, which was named in my honor. It served as a fortress and a church.
It reigned over Athens, like I reign over Mount Olympus, displaying power and inspiring awe.
Please, Athena, tell us about yourself.
Well, as the goddess of arts and crafts, I help artists and craftsmen. It's a very important job.
What do you mean?
Well, back before people could buy their clothes already made, ancient Greek women had to spin wool into thread and then weave it into cloth. I, Athena, goddess of arts and crafts, am the most skilled at this job. And it was my job to provide these skills to women so they could take care of their families.
Ah, yes. Seems to me I heard a myth about someone who challenged your spinning and weaving skills. What was the deal there?
You must mean Arachne. Poor peasant girl. She became too proud and arrogant. Let me tell you of it from the beginning. Arachne was a young girl to whom I had taught the art of spinning and weaving. She caught on very well. Probably one of my best students. Now Arachne knew that her work was lovely, and having become quite proud and conceited, she boasted, Athena taught me nothing. Everything I know I taught myself.
I'm sensing some conflict here.
Well, when word reached me about Arachne's conceit, I was very angry. I challenged her to a contest. Looms were set up and the weaving began. Word of the contest spread and neighbors began to drop by. They stood silent as Arachne and I began to weave beautiful and colorful pictures on the looms. When we were finished, I looked at Arachne's picture and became very angry because her picture was as good, if not better, than my own. I reached over and shoved her loom to the floor. Arachne grabbed her picture and ran. She sat beneath a tree on the riverbank and unraveled the threads of the picture. She was very upset.
Well, I can see that. I mean, she won after all.
You don't have to remind me. Anyway, I got my revenge.
What'd you do to her?
I turned her into a spider. You may notice that just as Arachne ran from the weaving contest, spiders run to the corners of their webs. They try to hide whenever you come to admire their work.
Ooh, you turned her into a spider? You must have been pretty upset.
Well, I had to do something. Arachne had committed hubris. Do you know what that means?
No.
Hubris refers to a fatal flaw in someone's character. It exists when mortals think they are better than the gods and goddesses. In ancient Greece, that was inappropriate behavior. So when Arachne boasted that she could weave better than I, well, she was punished by the gods.
Wow! Fascinating stories, magnificent myths. Thank you so much for being on our show today, Athena. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
What a great story from Athena. Now, if you were paying attention to that myth, you'll be able to figure out this quick quiz. The Greek word for spider is seen today in our scientific term for the spider. What is that word? Is it A, Spidoris, B, Athena, C, hubris, or D, arachnid? The answer is D, arachnid, from Arachne, the girl who was turned into a spider. We get arachnid, the scientific name for spider. Like we've said before, many of these ancient Greek names have been passed on to the modern day. All right, let's go back to Dwight and the gang and talk more myths.
Okay, now it's time for our last guest on the show. Through the ages, history is replete with heroes and heroines. Men and women who exemplify nobility and the pursuit of good. Our final guest brings with him the crown of Athens, for he is the king. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Theseus. Welcome, Theseus. So good you can make it today.
Yeah. Glad to be here.
Yes. Now then, there are many myths with which you're associated.
Well, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, there are quite a few.
So you became the king of Athens, but you didn't actually grow up in Athens, did you?
Yes, I am the king of Athens, as was my father Aegeus before me. And you are quite correct. I did not grow up in Athens.
But if your father was the king of Athens, how come you didn't grow up there?
That myth is a bit complicated. I'd be happy to share it with you if you have a few minutes.
Certainly, we'd love to hear it.
Well, I grew up in southern Greece because that was where my mother was from, and it was there that my father, King Aegeus of Athens, met my mother. They met, fell in love, and got married. After I was born, my father had to return to Athens because of his responsibilities to the masses, but my mother chose to stay in her village and raise me alone.
Well, that must have been hard on you.
It was. But before my father left, he buried a bronze sword and a pair of golden sandals under a heavy boulder. He told my mother that when I was old enough and strong enough to lift the stone, to let me do so. He said that if I could lift the stone and retrieve his sandals and sword and make my way to Athens, then I would be man enough to succeed him on the throne.
So your whole life was pretty much planned out for you.
Yes, in a way it was. My mother did a great job of raising me. I mean, she knew that someday I would be king. So she taught me about nature and the great thinkers of the world. She also taught me that it was very important to respect the gods.
All good stuff for an ancient Greek hero to know.
Exactly. Anyway, I was eventually told of the boulder. I, of course, really wanted to be able to lift it, so I worked out quite extensively. You know, jogging, weightlifting, things of that nature. Like all teenagers at the time, I learned how to box and wrestle and fight with a sword. When my mother thought I was old enough and strong enough, she led me to the boulder. It was very big and very, very heavy, but I was very strong. It was harder than anything I'd ever attempted before. But I did it.
What did you do then?
Well, you see, my friends, I was very sad because I did not want to leave my mother. The woman who raised me and taken care of me and signed for the loan on my first chariot. But it was time for me to go. It was time for me to begin my journey to my father and my rightful position in Athens. So I put on the golden sandals, attached the bronze sword to my belt, and kissed my mother goodbye. And I began my difficult journey. It was a long trip by foot, over the mountains, through unknown lands, and it wasn't easy. There were lots of monsters and robbers and beasts along the way that I was compelled to deal with. And deal with them I did.
Monsters, robbers, beasts? Oh my!
Everywhere I traveled, I was forced to battle evil people and terrible monsters. Each battle I won. So by the time I reached Athens, I was already quite famous. I arrived at my father's castle, but he had still not put two and two together and didn't even know that the famous Theseus, bringer of peace to the countryside, was his son. So I showed him the sword of bronze and the golden sandals. He was so overwhelmed to see me that he shed tears of joy.
But it didn't end there, did it, Theseus? You went on to do battle with all kinds of creatures and do a number of hero-type things, didn't you? Like when you killed the Minotaur.
That is correct, sir. When I heard that every year King Minos of Crete would sacrifice young Athenians to that horrible creature, I went to Crete to defeat the Minotaur.
And this was a horrible beast, to be sure. Tell us about the Minotaur.
Well, it was a half-man, half-bull monster that lived in a maze called a labyrinth. This maze was so twisted that most people believed that even if I was able to kill the beast, I would never return, stuck in the labyrinth forever.
This is already starting to sound pretty heroic.
But I had a plan. Along with my sword, I carried with me a long strand of string. As I searched the labyrinth for the beast, I let out the string behind me. Finally, I came upon the monster.
Was he horrible?
The horriblest, big and powerful, with eyes like an eagle and teeth like a lion. He came at me with a terrible roar, but I slashed and I parried and I fought with all my might. After a mighty battle, I was victorious.
I bet your dad was so proud of you when you got back to Athens.
Unfortunately, that's the saddest part of my tale. My father was so worried about me that he wanted to know as soon as possible that I was safe. Every day he went to the cliff overlooking the sea. He had instructed me to exchange the black sails on my ship for the white ones when I returned, to let him know that I was alive.
Oh no, don't tell me.
Yeah, well, we left Crete in such a hurry, I did not have time to change the sails. When my father, King Aegeus, saw my ship returning flying black sails, he assumed that I had perished and immediately flung himself from the cliff to his death. The water there still bears his name. It's called the Aegean Sea.
Very, very sad. And so on your sad but heroic return from slaying the Minotaur, you became the King of Athens.
Yes, that is true.
Well, King Theseus, it has been a pleasure having you on our show. Whew. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I'm sure you were all hanging on to Theseus's every word, but let's make sure you were all paying close attention. Theseus described the Minotaur as a very scary monster. Now think very carefully. Here's the question. The Minotaur was A, half man, half bull, B, half bull, half lion, C, half man, half turkey, or D, half bird, half lion. What was it Theseus had to defeat in the labyrinth? The answer is A. The Minotaur was half man and half bull. The teeth of the lion were thrown in for good measure. Well, we hope you all had fun playing along, and we hoped you all liked our funky songs. But it's time to wrap this mythology show, so back to you, Dwight. It's time to go.
Okay, thank you, Achilles and the heroes. And with that, my friends, we come to the end of what has been an exciting, entertaining, and very educational show on the origins of myths. As we end this show today, I just want y'all to know that it's been a great pleasure entertaining you with these wonderful guests and their stories. Thanks to all of them. Goodbye, everybody. Good luck and good hits.
You guys are looking, because you get each other with a surprise look. 1, 2, 3.
Father of history? Did he have a son named History? All right, I missed a line, didn't I?
No. Herodotus traveled
Do you remember when Aphrodite and Athena and I asked you to pick who was the beautiful...
So none of these myths have ever been written down before?
Aphrodite? Fairer than me?
Uh-oh.
You realize this means war. And it's all your fault.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
We hope you enjoyed the video.
We hope to see you again real soon.
Bye.
Bye.